Good morning, I am Kevin Price. It's Monday, and I'm talking to you today about you and your business. As always, I got a lot to cover on this program, and because it is Monday, we do a weekly feature with my good friend, the one and only Steve Beaman with the Society for the Advancement of Financial Education, organization that is near and dear to me, and one that in which he founded. And we got lots of stuff coming down. In fact, I meant to send you an email. It looks like we got one of the chambers here wants you to come in December, which I think you'll love to get away from that snow for a couple of days in the middle of December, won't you?
Well, I certainly would, and I always love to speak to our friends in the Chamber of Commerce. I think they try their very best to level the playing field and help business get the kind of regulatory relief that it needs. But good morning to you, Kevin. It's always great to be with you.
Tell us a little bit about the Society. Kind of give us the overview.
Well, as we know, the Society exists to empower people with the financial knowledge they need to build a better and more prosperous life as they go through it. We work with small business people, mid-level business people, retirees, college students, anybody who really needs to understand the power of money. We talk to them about how to make their investments work better for them, how to make their cash flows work better for them. So it's a broad-based effort to change the national dialogue.
Yeah, and so and the emphasis that is a multi-tier approach, or multifaceted is probably a better approach. I don't want anyone to think it's an MLM all of a sudden, but not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not what it is. But it has multi-facets involved: education, influence, empowerment. It really does cover a lot of different areas.
That's right. And the other thing we try to do is bring entertainment into it. We've got a major show coming up September 24th at the Drury Lane Theater in Oak Brook, Illinois. We've brought together some Grammy award-winning artists to join us on the stage, and we're going to put together a 2-hour bang-up show that is really 2 hours of pure entertainment, but we're going to be talking financial literacy throughout.
Yeah, sounds awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the news. Usually we start off with my list of things, but last week, and I think we'll do the same this week, let's talk about your list of news.
Well, I first want all your listeners to go to U.S. Daily Review, because that's a daily source of news for me. But, Kevin, the biggest thing last week that I think is maybe didn't get the press it should have, but that's the bankruptcy in Detroit. We are certainly going to see ramifications from this. Other cities have gone bankrupt, but Detroit is certainly the biggest and the baddest of them all.
Yeah, no question about it. And nothing like it, actually. And here's a city that in 1950 had 2 million. It was the fourth largest city in America. Now it's about the same size as Washington, D.C., and I think it has about 700,000 people. It's about a fourth of what it was in 1950. And they continue to want to do, they keep talking about, various things that have happened, for example, improving the automobile industry and that type of thing. But let's face it, that's a place that is completely hostile to entrepreneurship and the American dream. And so the American dream isn't going to live there anymore.
That's a fact. And in order to fix Detroit, they're going to have to destroy it. You've got the pension system in that city that has just overwhelmed it. I think one of the tragic little side notes is the Detroit baseball team is actually owned by the city of Detroit. So we're going to see those baseball players who live on city pensions affected by this, and that may get a little more media than the bankruptcy itself.
What? I thought the guy who owned the Red Wings also owned the Tigers. I'm going to have to do my homework on that. If that's true, though, that should get some attention. My poor Detroit Tigers. I'm a huge fan. That's a tragedy. When, of course,
well, I hear about it because one of the solutions offered is Detroit could sell off its baseball team.
Oh, my. Well, it'd probably be a good thing for the Tigers if they did. But,
right.
Yeah, I'd be that'd be sad. I mean, that would really be amazing if they lost them. But how does a team like 700,000 deserve franchises like the Red Wings and the Tigers?
Well, that's exactly right. And this is a tragic story of Americans' attempt to embrace socialist-type policies in the city. It didn't work. You cannot have collectivism build excellence, and that's what they tried to do in Detroit. Unfortunately, we're seeing the same type of thing play out in Illinois as a state and across this country in several states. And as they find out, you cannot continually spend more money than you make. At some point, the musical chairs ends and whoever's left standing loses.
Yeah, that's very ominous. Talk a little bit about, I don't know how familiar you are with this, and I'm asking you because I'm not that familiar, and I might have to do some homework to find someone who is. But my understanding is that Detroit was really an experiment in the 1960s that Lyndon Johnson developed specific economic programs, and he used Detroit as a petri dish, and they never recovered from those programs. Do you know anything about that?
I am not ultra familiar with the cause and the motivations behind what they created, but I can tell you the outcome of what they did was a disaster.
Yeah.
You had a city that was vibrant. It had a business community, an arts community. It had entrepreneurialism built around its major industry of automotive. And over a 40-year period, that just evaporated, much like, frankly, has been seen in Chicago. If you go back 40 years ago, Chicago was the headquarters of 3 major industries, let alone companies. And as we look at it today, they're all gone. And they're gone because governments regulate too much, governments spend too much, and they squeeze the small business right out of business.
Yeah, if you doubt freedom works, look at places like Chicago and Detroit, and then compare them to places like Dallas and Houston.
That's right, and we see the Affordable Care Act coming in on a national level, hurting even more. In fact, if you look at Illinois, Blue Cross Blue Shield just pulled out of all maternity coverage in the state of Illinois. We look in California, major insurance companies have pulled out of the state of California, and what you're seeing is a squeeze that will hit the small and mid-sized businesses the hardest. So that's not good for the near-term economic development of the United States.
Oh, I'm so depressed. All right,
don't be depressed, my friend, because there's reason for hope. Everybody listening joins the society. We teach them how to prosper from this, and we teach them that if they run a business, they move to Texas.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I tell you, I just see more and more Michigan license plates, which I totally understand and sympathize with, but I certainly hope they don't bring the politics of Michigan with them. New Hampshire used to be one of the most conservative states in the country. Massachusetts was an economic ruin, so untold numbers of citizens of Massachusetts moved to New Hampshire, and they decided they didn't realize that the way they were voting in Massachusetts is what made it a disaster. And now New Hampshire's largely a blue state rather than a red state. And that always makes me nervous when these people come from other cities.
But what's happening, Kevin, is programs like yours are educating more and more people to come around to a rational way of thinking. And so as you do your program and bring true hope to people through your enlightenment, other programs around the country, Joe Walsh has a program in the city of Chicago that we're actually featured on now. And that is a program enlightening people. And so as you guys work together with your radio voice, bring people hope, I think we can move the needle. And that is something that gives me eternal optimism.
Well, I love that about you, man. All right, when we come back, let's talk a little bit about the delays that the Obama administration is doing on the mandates of Obamacare, and we'll talk about some more things as well. We spent a lot of time on Detroit, but let's face it, when it was one of the largest cities in the country declares bankruptcy, man, that's a huge topic. We could talk a whole lot about a bunch of cities on the brink of bankruptcy who might decide to go ahead and take the leap since Detroit has done it. That could create economic chaos everywhere. We'll talk a little bit about that as well when we come back. Much more for you, but you're listening to The Price of Business.